Welcome back to Nonstop Recap. Today we'll be going over the 2018 romantic comedy When We First Met. Opening on an engagement party on November 1st, the film introduces Noah as he watches the beautiful Avery give a speech about the night she fell in love. We're taken back 3 years to the Halloween party where Noah first met Avery. They hit it off on a mutual love of the movie A League of Their Own, then begin chatting and decorating pumpkins together. After watching two couples making out, including Avery's roommate, Carrie, and Phil, the Jello shot doctor, they decide to head someplace less crowded. Noah takes Avery to the jazz bar where he plays piano. They sing together, and then Avery suggests getting their picture taken in an antique photo booth. After getting their pictures, Avery tells Noah she thinks he's cute. They go back to her place where they play foosball and eat Cookie Crisp. We learn that Noah dropped out of business school and they bond some more. Just when it looks like they're about to kiss, we return to the engagement party where we learn that Avery is actually getting engaged to a man named Ethan. Noah gets depressed and chugs tequila straight from the bottle until running to the bathroom to puke his guts out. Avery goes to check on him, and the incredibly nice Ethan brings him crackers before Avery decides that Noah needs to go for a walk. They run into Carrie taking wedding photos, and she offers to drive Noah home. He initially rejects her and decides to call an Uber, but he changes his mind after plunging his phone into the punch bowl. As he leaves, he kisses a plate with Avery's face on it and decides to steal it. In Carrie's truck, Noah admits that he's in love with Avery. He takes a shot of whiskey and starts to tell the story of how he and Avery met, but Carrie says he has the story wrong. She stops when she realizes Noah's brought her to a bar. She tries to stop Noah from going inside, but he plows on ahead. Instead, they meet Noah's friend Max, who immediately hits on Carrie. Noah finishes his story and reveals that Avery never kissed him, but merely hugged him and told him he's a good friend. He then tells the slightly exaggerated story of Avery meeting Ethan the next day when she went to replace the Cookie Crisp that Noah ate. Avery tells Noah that Ethan's a good guy and that he needs to move on and accept that he and Avery never had the intangible spark they needed to build a relationship. She then leaves after Max hits on her again. Max starts to help Noah out of the bar, but has Noah sit in the photo booth while he goes to call a ride. Noah pines over his first photos with Avery and then decides to take a new photo of himself while wishing he could go back and do things over again. He blacks out and wakes up in bed. As he leaves, he passes his old Halloween costume. Noah's surprised to see multiple kids in Halloween costumes around town. He goes to the corner store where he sees a newspaper claiming the date to be Halloween 3 years ago. He doesn't believe it at first, but he's convinced when he learns that Blueberry Red Bull doesn't exist yet. He runs to Max's office and tries to tell him what's happening, but Max thinks he's just having a crisis after dropping out of school. Noah then sees Carrie through the window and runs out to find her taking photos for a Halloween wedding at the park. He tells her about the engagement party, and Max runs out to apologize for Noah's insanity before hitting on her and getting rejected yet again. When it's clear that Max and Carrie don't recognize each other, Noah realizes that he can retry his first meeting with Avery. He runs off excitedly while Max gets rejected for both the fourth and second times. Noah runs home and puts on a tuxedo because he thinks it's what Ethan would wear. At the party, he sees Avery with Carrie and sends in Jello shot Dr. Phil as a distraction. As Phil leaves with Carrie, Noah suavely introduces himself to Avery before using what he knows about her to make it seem like they have more in common than they do. At the bar, he plays a song by her favorite jazz musician as they again have their photos taken. Back at Avery's place, Avery gets a drunk text from Carrie saying she's on the way home. Noah starts to leave but stops to kiss Avery on the way out. When Carrie arrives, she recognizes Noah as the crazy guy from the park, and Avery accuses Noah of stalking her. He insanely tries to prove he's not a stalker by showing them his underwear, which naturally freaks them out more. As Carrie beats him with a tree, he wakes up on the day of the engagement party. Thinking it was all a dream, he texts Avery to apologize for getting drunk, but she doesn't recognize his number. He goes over over to her house, where Ethan doesn't recognize him. Avery and Carrie do, however, and Avery maces him while Carrie beats him with another tree. After Ethan gets him in a hold, he escapes by claiming he has a bomb. He gets home and tries to figure out how he's been time traveling when he sees his pictures with Avery and realizes the photo booth must be involved. He goes back to the bar where he kicks another couple out of the booth so he can use it again. He wakes up on Halloween and this time calls Max for help. They show up to the party a little late and Max stops him outside to tell him that all he needs to do is be confident and nag Avery like a jerk. Inside, Max distracts Carrie while Noah approaches Avery. He takes Max's advice a little too well, but he convinces her to let him get her a beer. At the bar, Max tells Noah that Carrie is too much work and he has eyes on someone else. While Noah returns to Avery, Max leaves Carrie and Phil steps in. After Noah relentlessly insults her, Avery storms off. Despite knowing that she wound up with the nicest guy ever in her original timeline, Noah continues his roguish facade until Avery finally pushes him in the pool. He pulls her in with him and they start passionately making out. They go back to her place where Noah hides Carrie's tree and they hook up. 3 years later, Noah wakes up in bed with Avery. He tries to spoon her but learns they aren't actually together. Noah's become a womanizing tool and Avery simply uses him as a booty call. Ethan and Carrie come over for a jog and Noah invites himself along but discovers it's a bit hard to run in leather pants. But he gets worried when he learns that Ethan's single and runs harder in an attempt to show off. When Ethan turns the jog into an impromptu obstacle course, Noah winds up hurting himself. Carrie offers to patch him up while Avery and Ethan run off together. Noah tells Carrie that he's in love with Avery and needs to know how to fix the consequences of treating her like a jerk. Carrie tells him that Avery just wants someone she can settle down with and live the American dream. Noah goes back to the photo booth. After waking up on Halloween, he puts on business attire and goes to Max's office to ask for a job. At the party, Noah's super supportive and kind to the guests before talking to Avery and taking her to the bar, where he orders a bottle of wine and they snuggle while listening to the owner play piano. Noah wakes up in a home office and learns that he's let himself go in this reality, but he's finally succeeded and woken up on the day of his own engagement party with Avery. Avery comes downstairs and kisses him before showing him their new personalized plates. Noah also learns that Carrie is their house guest and he invites her to stay forever. As he leaves for work, Avery worries about Noah making the engagement party on time. He tries to be reassuring but starts getting calls from multiple phones at once. He gets to the office where they throw him a surprise party to celebrate his new corner office. Noah then speaks to a Chinese client and is shocked to learn that he knows the language. Max asks to speak with him alone and Noah learns that he stole Max's promotion out from under him. No longer his friend, Max pops Noah's party balloons and leaves. Noah stress eats cake alone when his assistant comes in with an itinerary for a flight to Charlotte. Noah wants to skip it and go home, but she tells him that he'd be fired instantly. Noah's late to the engagement party that night and can't find Avery. After learning that he can no longer play piano, he speaks to Carrie and learns that Avery is with Ethan. Noah finds them in the bathroom where Ethan is getting sick in the toilet. After kissing Avery in front of him, Noah offers to drive Ethan home. In the car, Noah learns that Ethan stole one of their engagement plates and confessed his love to Avery, whereupon she told him that she wished things were different. Heartbroken, Noah drives around all night and comes home late. He asks Carrie why Avery doesn't love him, and she gives him the same relationship talk she gave him first at the bar. Noah decides to go back in time and fix things. He brings Ethan to the Halloween party and sets him up with Avery while he goes and meets Carrie at the bar. They do shots and dance together before leaving with Ethan and Avery. At the bar, Noah plays piano while Ethan and Avery flirt in the photo booth. Noah learns that Carrie plays piano as well and that most of his first attractions to Avery were actually based on Carrie Carrie's influence, such as the foosball table and Avery's Halloween costume. The two couples end the night by crowding into the photo booth together. Noah wakes up on Max's couch 3 years later, learning that he's still single and that Carrie wound up with Phil. Noah complains that he was fated to be with Carrie, but Max says fate doesn't exist and that life is really about learning from missed opportunities. Noah goes to meet Carrie and kisses her before pouring his heart out to her, but she rejects him. When he discovers that the date of Avery's engagement was changed by Ethan's attendance at the Halloween party, Noah concludes that relationships are about key moments and that he needs to try again. Unfortunately, he finds that the photo booth has been replaced. He gets drunk and mopes in the new photo booth when Avery and Ethan show up, and he learns that they bought him the original photo booth as a gift. Noah decides that things really do happen for a reason and that he needed his first magical night with Avery in order to get closer to Carrie. He goes home to redo things exactly as they happened before his time traveling. He goes through their first night together leading up to the hug and passes Carrie on his way out the door. At the engagement party, she decides not to get wasted. Instead, he chats up Carrie and asks her feelings on love. She says maybe some things are just meant to be. He invites Carrie out for a drink and they leave the party together. As the movie ends, the numerous moments that Noah and Carrie have shared together are revealed through a series of photographs. Thanks for watching Nonstop Recap.